think it's honestly scary, putting a price on something in the beginning and not kind of knowing or maybe doubting the worth that you have and like the value that you have in the place.
I started very low, and really the only reason why we started there was because I had hired someone to help me with the startup portion of it. And like, it looked good on paper, but then once we realized how much work was involved in actually hosting an event like some of them were, and then we started thinking, okay, well, we have stage lighting, we have sound system, we're basically already set up. So we decided to make sure that our pricing was including those things.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
What's up, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX, and this episode we have for you today, it's one of the Venue Owner series, and it's going to be something that I'm personally really excited about. It is a little bit of a different style of venue, and I'm excited for this because, many of you listening, you have venues that are barns, that are, modern spaces, they are event centers. And we're talking today to someone who has really it's more of like a multi-purpose space, an art gallery. There's a lot of different purposes to this, but it's also being used as an event venue. And I cannot wait to get into the story of Continuum Art. Katie, thank you so much for being here today. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
All right. Well, kind of tell us a bit about, I kind of teased what the space is all about, and, did a little bit of research myself, and we'll have all the links for everything you're doing in the description. But could you, just for anyone listening on audio, give a little bit of a description of what the venue space is like?
Yeah. So it's in an old warehouse. It's a historic warehouse in downtown Hendersonville, right off of our main street. And so it's urban. You walk into it, there's exposed beams and wooden ceilings. It's been several different things over the years. It was originally what was called a sundries house. So you used to be able to pull your horse and buggy into the entrance and hand a list off to the guys that were stationed at each shelf that would find your nuts and bolts and nails and all kinds of different things. And they would just pass that off as you drove through. And then right before we got it, it was a fireplace and flooring showroom. And it's not really been touched other than that. It's always been an empty shell. I think when we got it, there were 30 different types of flooring just glued straight down to the floor. But when you walk in now, it's almost kind of like a sanctuary. It's got, a beautiful arched window, that I found is actually really hard to find those nowadays. Everybody asks us where we got our window, and I didn't actually search for it, but we have the studios off to the left, and then the gallery is off to the right. And it's 8,100 square feet of warehouse space. There's been beautiful lighting added, German schmear wall treatment. So basically, I've tried to make sure that every angle a photo is taken, there's something beautiful in the background. And yeah, and so I would say it's very urban, but still rustic, country, mountain kind of feel.
When you go on the website, you immediately kind of see the artistic side of it. I mean, everything from your logo, how it animates in the corner, to how the website scrolls. It's a beautiful website.
Oh, thank you.
You do tattoo. You have multiple tattoo studios there, as well as the art gallery. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're actually located in a mezzanine that's within the space for the venue itself, and all the artists their spaces are all soundproofed, so you can't really hear what's going on in the studio, even when we're using loud machines, which is really kind of cool. When people realize that there's a tattoo studio in their event space, they're shocked. They can't even comprehend that would have been there in the first place. And it's so funny that people rent the space, they go through all the hoops that it takes to rent a venue, and then they get here and they realize, oh, it's a tattoo studio? Oh, okay. So
that's super neat. How did this come about to have the tattoo artists kind of share the space with the event venue?
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So originally the concept was we were creating a shop that was going to basically be a shop that would be very utilitarian for the tattoo artists. It was originally supposed to be, a really calming space to work out of. You have your own private studio. You don't have to share your space with anyone. You are able to have a gallery to show your art, when you think it's ready. And then you also have like a classroom space. And originally when we set it up, we realized that the floor needed to be leveled out towards, a certain part of the building. And, all of us were really into music, and the space is big enough to have live shows. So we were just like, well, why don't we just make that a platform? We won't make a stage, but we'll just make a platform. That way, when we have classes and things that, the teacher can get up and speak in front of everyone, and it'll just be a little bit more grand that way. And so we created it originally as that concept. It was just going to be for seminars, workshops, studios, and, the production of art and the showing of art. And then while we were working on the space, after we started really, doing some more of the finite, interior design, people just came and everyone asks all the time, do you rent out your space? And so you don't say no to money. So we just decided, okay, we can make this work, I think. So we've learned what events, are really suitable, and what price to charge, over the years. But yeah, it was never originally supposed to be an event venue. It just kind of evolved into that. It was a nice evolution though. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I'm curious about that process because I think for a lot of folks, a wedding or a celebration, you mentioned the Hispanic weddings, with the bandas and some of the really loud, very signature music. Wedding venues are definitely very different and eclectic, and they oftentimes speak to the style of couple that's getting married. Someone who wants to get married in an urban space is not going to be looking for a barn venue or not going to be looking for, some of these other spaces. So as this evolution was happening where you had people asking, hey, can I use your space? And you started saying yes. What were some of the first lessons or maybe even first kind of failures or painful things that you had to work through as you started this evolution towards making it an event space?
Yeah, some of the more painful part of it was that we were trying to keep prices affordable for people. And we kept them much too affordable for some groups. It was, we would price, really underprice, like a 200 person event. And, there was a lot of learning in that, the messes that can be made. The kind of messes the children can make. And we did have some art damaged by just a small group that just had a small birthday here. We had some art damage that we had to have repaired. And, that's never fun. Your heart kind of sinks into your stomach. And, so I think another hard lesson that we had to learn, because we weren't originally planning to be an event venue, but it evolved into like, hey, we have a stage, let's throw a concert. And then we figured out how hard it is to promote a concert, So that was all definitely, there were a lot of learning lessons there, no confetti. no glitter, stuff like that, that I think every venue owner goes through. It's just like, maybe I should tell them they can't have glitter.
Yeah. Yeah. But I personally just have spent so much time picking through, the venues that we've managed. You're going through and you're picking up rose petals, or you're picking up all the different stuff that people leave behind. And then after a while, you're like, yeah, maybe this should go on like a rules and regulations sheet somewhere. When you were first starting this whole process, were you the one who was working all the weddings and events? Did you have kind of other team members who were helping you execute it?
My husband and I were taking on the bulk of that, for sure. A lot of the stuff that we had, we actually tried when we first began. We weren't really involved too much in the hospitality part of it because we just didn't know too much about working with event planners and things like that. We just automatically assumed that, they knew to hire the people that they needed to work their event. And then all of a sudden we learned they actually don't know and they don't think of those things. And we were involved way more into some things than we really wanted to be. But we wanted everybody to have a good event. So we just jumped in and did what we had to do. And then now we know, and we've, included a lot of that in our pricing. When you have a certain number of people with a certain type of event you have to be able to hire the number of people that it takes to be able to have a smooth event and make sure that you can clean up the mess afterwards. Mm-hmm. So
if you wouldn't mind, I'm curious, and totally, if you don't want to share exactly, that's totally fine. But just for the sake of, anyone who's listening and trying to figure out their own process, if they're, thinking about doing something like this, where did you start in terms of price point? And then kind of what are those key things? I know you said some of the messes and some of that different stuff, but where did you start in your pricing? And then kind of where did you move to?
I started very low. We started at like $1,500. And really the only reason why we started there was because I had hired someone to help me with the startup portion of it, and I left it up to them to come up with what they thought was competitive pricing for the area. And they kind of just put it all together for me, and it looked good on paper, but then once we realized how much work was involved in actually hosting an event, some of them were, it was like, okay, well, I think that, we should receive some feedback of some sort. So there was a couple of quinceañeras that, there were a couple of members from those groups that came up to us and said, so how much does it cost to rent this place? And, we don't ever disclose pricing right away, right? We're venue owners. So we just said, well, we gave this group a good deal, and, we're hoping to rent to more folks. What do you think it goes for? Stuff like that. And then friends of ours who, we hadn't seen in a long time, and then would come to one of these events, they would come and talk to us, and we'd be like, yeah, we didn't charge enough for this. We are so underpricing ourselves, and they would offer good advice, So a couple of people said, make sure that you're pricing yourself to cover your rent with one event, one big event a month, and then go from there. And so that's kind of where we started. We wanted to make sure our rent was going to be covered if we had one event booked a month, and lights and whatnot. So we definitely started there at just the base pricing. And then we started thinking, okay, well, we're capable of doing and offering certain things. We have stage lighting, we have sound system. We are basically already set up for most events. We don't keep any of that equipment put away, or have to bring it out of storage. So it just comes with the venue. So we decided to make sure that our pricing was including those things. And then, we had a cleaning crew come through and quote us on what it would cost to clean the whole place after a party. And now we include that. And if people need a discount on their event, then sometimes we'll say, okay, well, do you have relatives that want to come and clean the place up afterwards? If they do, then we'll give you that amount of money off of your package. So just kind of went from there. So we started out around 1,500, and now something like a quince or a larger scale wedding or wedding reception is going to be around 5,650, I think, or 5,250 is what we have it listed for on our event page. And that comes with your tables, chairs, your linens, all the stuff that we know these people are going to need to have a really nice and cozy event. It may sound really cheap, and I'd love to get some feedback on if we could raise our prices even more. But I think that it's important to have things that are just so simple to put out for people, but are going to make the event just people talk about it. Talk about how nice of an event it was.
Thank you so much for sharing that progression, because I think it's honestly scary, putting a price on something in the beginning and not kind of knowing, or maybe doubting the worth that you have and like the value that you have in the place. And it's kind of like that needs to be proven to you. Like other people walk into the space and be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But then it takes you kind of going through that process. So for anyone listening or watching this, like don't be afraid to come out there and charge something that might feel a little uncomfortable to charge, but it's what you're going to need to charge to be able to give the kind of quality service that you want to deliver. And it seems like that's kind of the direction that y'all have gone.
Yeah, I think we're actually looking at providing even more services and charging a higher ticket price, just saying that you can't have an event here unless it provides these things. Access to the decor closet and all of that are our goals in the future. And just an all-inclusive package, I think, is what we're looking to do.
Yeah, because then that allows you to control more of the experience for couples. When you first kind of had some of those requests that you were receiving to host events at your property, did you just do 2 or 3 in the first year? Did you do like 10 plus in the first year? What did it kind of look like in terms of, the amount of events that you've booked over the
I want to say we had about 5 our first year. It wasn't 10. We got quite a few offers from different community groups, different charities. A lot of people wanting us to rent the space out for super cheap. And I don't know if you read this on the website, but we actually opened up in June of 2021. We signed the lease on our venue or on our studio, January of 2020. And so we were coming out of stuff right when stuff was opening up, and people were still leery of, should we have an event or should we not? Especially if it's a public event. So we didn't get a whole lot of inquiries. Most of our inquiries came from the Latin community, actually, because I don't think a lot of them, they just function the way they always know to function. They don't really listen to the news. So a lot of our business came from that community.
Hey, that's helpful. That's super helpful. As you kind of started booking events now, learning some of those lessons, raising your pricing, including more things, kind of going through that process, what is kind of your target goal of how many events you want to have? Like, obviously you have to juggle the art side, the studio space and all that. What are your goals, and how many events are you looking to get?
I'm happy at 10 large events per year, and then keeping 75 and under events weekly happening. is usually no problem for everyone else to maintain, functioning. The way that our space is split, sometimes it prevents those groups from renting the stage area, because that's also where our front counter is. So when we want to receive tattoo clients, or people just want to walk in off the street to inquire about tattoos or piercings, we also do piercings here. It would be very intrusive on somebody's private event rental. So what we usually do is we relocate them to the gallery hall, which is normally the dining hall portion of any event. And so far, everybody's been pretty receptive to that. We've had a couple people who have rented from us in the past, expecting the stage area and gallery hall. And, we explained things to them. We gave them a choice. We're not telling you have to be in one area or the other, but we do want to let you know that we are a functioning studio and you're operating your event during operating hours. And we do have it in your contract that, this is also this type of space and this will be happening. And you can either be okay with that, or we can put you back here. So
that makes sense. I was going to ask you, and you kind of started getting into it already. How has it been juggling both of those sides?
It's been exhausting. It's been exhausting. I actually have been tattooing for long enough, and I'm actually a pretty good teacher that I've been able to take on some apprentices. And it's been very stressful coming from the generation of tattooers that I come from, and knowing what I think they would think they're entitled to. It kind of stresses me out to, not know what these artists are thinking when they're having to deal with an event. But they've never had to deal with a tattoo convention before. So I never know if they're happy or not. And I'm good at what I do hospitality wise, because I want to make sure everybody's happy. So that kind of stress happens a little bit when I'm trying to basically make sure that they're not stressing out too much about the noise, that clients are also okay with it. That's a big factor too, is that the clients know that we have events here. Please make sure your clients know we have events here, because some people may not like that. And then the artists needing to be okay with maybe some potential business would shy away from a place like this, because there are events that happen. So just kind of being aware of that as somebody who runs a tattoo studio as well as an event venue has been stressful at times. And we have had one client over the last 3 years that complained about the noise and things like that. So,
not bad. No, it's
not really too bad, but I'd like that 100%, So, that's been a challenge. And then also sometimes, you have people renting the space and you have family members who don't realize that especially older family members who don't realize that the couple has rented an art gallery because they enjoy the art gallery. They enjoy it for the art that's in it. They enjoy the space, the way that it's set up. There have been some groups come in where we've had, pretty large installations, some, ceramic, hanging ceramics in the middle of the room, which I think adds to the event. And, certain members of the group don't like it and they want it to move. And you have to tell them, well, I can't move it. You guys didn't tell us that it needed to be moved. And stuff like that's been a challenge too on the art gallery side of things. The other challenge was learning maybe we shouldn't have ceramics, because we do allow our guests to pay for the movement of the art. And so we've moved a piece, or two that have gotten damaged in moving. which is why the guests have to pay for it. Hopefully it makes up for everything else. But, I've had to kind of make some hard compromises because, I'm so passionate about running the gallery and curating the art and making sure that it's always interesting. And it's really hard to have a huge installation of ceramics, and you're a popular event venue as well, and you're having to move stuff all the time. So,
yeah, I can imagine the choreography that it must take to kind of, especially if you do have, maybe you have an installation, but then you have a wedding the next day and the installation's going away, or you have like the layering. And that's what I was going to ask you. Do you use any sort of like shared calendars, software, anything like that helps you organize all of that?
Yeah, I use Google Calendar. I use Square Calendar for my tattoo clients, and Google Calendar mainly to keep track of everything.
Okay. Awesome. So it's a way to kind of keep things separate, but still all on a calendar, so you know what's going on all at the same time.
Yeah. I'm sure there's probably a better system, but I have basically I've just created several different email addresses that keep track of each calendar.
That totally makes sense. When you look at the future of your business, kind of, or I should say all your businesses, right? Because you've got a couple of different things going. Are you looking to get more into events, or you kind of, I know you mentioned kind of having 10. Is that the number that you want to stay at, or are you looking to kind of continue to do more events, weddings, things like that?
I would like to do more events. I would like, I think I would like to top out my events at maybe five more years of heavy event rentals, and then be able to say, okay, I think we need to scale back a bit. I would prefer, and basically that's just more like a financial need. I think that we will still be happy to open our doors to community charities and events that are really worthy, especially if it's, maybe some tattoo clients of ours, met, by getting tattooed together or something like that. And they really want to have their wedding here. Of course, we will let them have their wedding here. But I think that, we'll definitely probably try to get to a point where we're having to scale back a bit, and it's going to be at a certain price point if you want to rent our space and go through everything. I don't see me selling off my event items that I've invested in. I've got china and silverware and some other things that just make it easy to be a venue owner, rather than, people paying, money walking out the door. We've invested in some stuff to where we make more money off of those items. So,
well, and a question about that, how did you decide which items to get and which items to, just because there's so much? I mean, it's so much stuff. How did you decide which to get and which not?
I kind of figured that, if I got modern white dishes that could be dressed up in an elegant way, and then just regular silverware, nothing custom. So we didn't invest in anything that might go out of style. Like, we didn't do gold plated silverware. We didn't do, like French, dishes or anything like that. We just did basic, plates and silverware, just like a hotel would. I just looked hotels, they cater to so many different types of events. I just started investing in things that you would see in a hotel banquet hall. And so, we don't have any colored napkins. Normally we offer, to help coordinate the rental of those items. But we don't do that. We also have a pay it forward decor closet, that we didn't actually invest in. People just leave their items here. They know that we work heavily with community charities, and that we try to give deals to people who can't afford those things. And so they rather than going through the trouble of selling them off themselves, they just leave them here. So we get to make money off of those things. And then, I got some we're an eclectic space. So I got some eclectic bar glasses that kind of match, but kind of don't. And, just kind of fit the space and fit the types of events that want to rent here.
That totally makes sense. I'm curious how originally, and this is something I wanted to ask earlier and I completely forgot about it. How did you do you own the building or are you leasing the building?
We're leasing. So
was it difficult kind of selling the person who you were leasing from on the fact that you wanted to make it an event space as well? Or that came and that was kind of part of the evolution of getting into the space?
Yeah. I mean, it was in the business plan. It wasn't a part of the business plan as like a venue per se, but we did say we wanted to have classes and workshops here. So I kind of just assumed that they would just roll with it if we decided to rent it out. The initial property owner was very laid back. I was basically told whenever we were prospecting, that the property owner didn't care what we did with the space as long as the rent was paid on time. And that's been the experience with the new property owner as well. I think all he cares about is, are we using the space legally? Are we tearing new holes in the wall without, reason? I think, they're perfectly reasonable people, and they, every time they come visit the space, they're just in awe of what we've done with it. So
that's super neat. Yeah. It's always interesting to me, that side of it, because coming into a relationship, whether it's a lease, whether it's ownership, you've got to kind of figure out, okay, what direction are we going to go with this? And sometimes people can hit roadblocks, with whatever. Was it difficult working with your county to get permitting or any of that stuff, or was that pretty straightforward?
No, that was difficult. And I have to say it was difficult, but we didn't experience any of the difficulty until after we opened. Because we ourselves didn't understand how a space could be used as a venue without it being zoned as a venue. So that was a little bit of the difficulty involved. And then we also had it was a process getting the actual permit for the build out itself. And then there's always the hoops that you jump through with any building department where they tell you have to have a general contractor if you're over a certain amount for the build, and stuff like that. Luckily our county's really easy to work with on things like that. I can't say that we lied on the application, but we, did what we had to do to get through that hoop. And so, I anticipated the build out to cost a certain amount of money, and COVID actually made it cost a lot more. So it wasn't really our fault. So we got through that process pretty easy. But then when we opened up, with some of the things that we were trying to do, a brand new fire marshal came in with all these crazy things that he said that we couldn't do. We were trying to have a gallery opening, and I consulted with him just to make sure that we were staying within fire code. And we were told that we couldn't bring in trays of food, like trays of that had been catered from another place. And I said, even if it's offered to our guests for free because it's a gallery opening. And he said, yes, that's technically operating outside of your, and so we had to go through several different hoops, and it was an emotional roller coaster through that process because he was basically telling us lies. He was just making it up as he goes. And, so we had to contact a lawyer, and we had to contact the state, and, soon found out that no, we can operate exactly how we would normally operate as an art gallery. And, as a one-time, 1-day venue or 2-day venue, however the limited permit needed to be rendered. And once we got over that hump, it was okay.
Yeah, the permitting process is hands down the most difficult process. And even just you might have your occupancy, but then you've got, other things you constantly got to be thinking about, noise, complaints, stuff like that. Are you in an area where that is an issue outside the venue?
Luckily, it's not. We don't have anything residential around us. There is an apartment or a condo near us that if they ever sell, maybe they would have something to complain about. But I have to say there's not really too much noise that comes out of here. I think we're right next to a brewery that has nightly music. And if anybody were to plan them out anything, it would be them. Yeah, I don't think it would be us at all. But that being said, we have had events with music that went past the county ordinance for our noise level, and nothing's ever happened. We're right across from the permit office too, which is really funny.
Kind of interesting.
So, yeah, right across from the permit office. We're right across from the sheriff. The only complaints we've ever had was a man with a tire shop that sits kind of adjacent to our studio had a window broken, and he accused someone from a quince that we had. He accused the quince that it was that party's fault for breaking his window, but we had cops posted outside and they didn't see anything, and everybody had left by the time they left. So we know it wasn't us. It was just, we just suggested that they get some cameras. So
100%. It's wild. And especially with the urban venues, I think you see so much, like there's so many people just living next to each other, doing life together, businesses doing things together. It makes sense. I have a couple questions kind of on wrapping today. How do you get the word out about the venue? Like, what are you doing for marketing?
So the marketing for the venue itself, to sell the venue as a venue, is just now being, I think, launched and put into place this year. We haven't really done any advertising in the past. It's been mainly word of mouth. Here's a lady. Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty nice. The lady that coordinates dance programming here, is a very good event planner and promoter herself, just from working with promoting dance events, for so many years. And so she began to, be that light for us and kind of shine the light onto what we're doing here, and that the fact that we rent it out, and very grateful for that. So much of that's been done on Facebook. Facebook is the primary, just hitting the Facebook groups and telling people that we do this and that. I actually have a couple of posts on Marketplace that gets some attention. And then just creating a nicer venue page, and with starting prices, just to weed out some of the people. I think we had a year where we didn't have, we had a lot of leads, but we didn't have a lot of sales. So yeah, so we revamped the website. We put our starting prices on there and how our packages work. And that's definitely helped to get actual closing sales on.
Yeah, it's been crazy throughout the industry. I've seen it was like felt really, really good in 2022 because you had all those people that, postponed, and it was 2022, 2023, but then it was a slower year for sure.
Yeah. And that we've also noticed a dip in sales as well. And I think last year we were getting a ton of inquiries. January, February, January was a little slow last year, and then it picked up right away. We got a few different bookings, but then, this January, February rolled around, and then April and we're still, okay, well, we have October booked, but we don't have some September. We don't have November. We don't have, any of that booked. So, yeah, we're looking at a slim year for sure compared to last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately. And we're seeing that too in some of the different markets, but the market definitely ebbs and flows. And I think, maybe it being an election year and some of those things like contribute to it, but it's tough to say for sure. But it's neat that you have that collaboration with the tattoo space, the art gallery, because then people can come there and get exposed to what you do from an event side for other ways. And
yeah.
So,
and that's usually what happens. We have, we actually have some clients of ours getting ready to have a baby shower here. So if they can spend money on tattoos, they can definitely rent the venue usually. They're spending along the same price point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was going to say, just thinking about I don't show it too much on the podcast, but I have like a full sleeve on my left arm. And sometimes I think about how much money or time I've put into it. It is just about like a venue. It's like a venue cost right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like a venue or just like an event that you go to or whatever, tattoos are the same. They're an experience that you don't forget. So just being able to provide that on all three levels, I think even with the gallery, we're voted best gallery in the area, right when we opened 2021, we were best gallery. So, being able to provide that is really important, I think.
That's huge. That's huge. Are you still actively tattooing as well?
Yeah, I do. I maintain my tattoo clients. I maintain the gallery and the event business. I've actually I used to bartend for 7 years before I became a tattoo artist. So I've recently began promoting my own mobile bar service, mainly to deal with the events here. But, hopefully I'll be able to push that to other venues as well.
That's awesome. That's very, very cool. Well, Katie, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. It's very, very neat what you're doing. And I don't think you said Hendersonville, but you are in North Carolina.
Yep.
How far away from Asheville are you?
We're about 20 minutes down the road from Asheville. And I think the surrounding counties in Asheville are receiving quite the influx of people. They're actually building $1 million condos right down the road. So it's called the Fairmont, and it's probably going to be our competition. But yeah, it's blown up over here. Forbes wrote an article about, I want to say it was around 2013 that Asheville was going to be the next Silicon Valley, and HGTV came in, built a house. And then ever since then, it's just been, people are realizing that Asheville's great, but man, you should check out these surrounding areas because they're really awesome. And there's quite a bit of money out here between Brevard and Hendersonville and some of the other surrounding counties for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's so neat. I'm in Georgia pretty frequently, and I'll be in Tennessee, but closer over to Chattanooga. So I'm going to have to come and check you guys out at some point.
Oh, it's beautiful here. You'll love it.
That's awesome. Well, Katie, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been great. If people want to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing with Continuum Art and just kind of the progress that you're making, or maybe even host their event at your place, what's the best way for them to reach out?
They can go visit the website at continuumartnc.com. We also have a couple different Instagrams, Continuum Gallery NC, and then Continuum Tattoo. So you can check us out on any of those platforms. Continuum Art on Facebook is also available.
Very neat. Very neat. And you got some really cool videos and like cut scenes and stuff on your social media of like music events and some really neat things. So kudos to what you're doing. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. This has been fun.
All right.
Pardon the interruption, I wanted to take a moment and share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it is a professional association custom built for venue owners and operators. We felt like there was a lack of resources, community, education, and networking available specifically for our industry, And so we recently started this association, and it's been growing by the day. We would love to extend an invite to you, so please click the link in the description or wherever you're watching this video, and we would love to welcome you into the community.